introduce Jamie Clary right here for the State of the City address.
Thank you all. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that very, very much. Thank you, Dr. Dower. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you all who are here. Those of you who are here, you've had the opportunity to participate in a quiz. Hopefully you all did that. And we have some results to share with you. Last year we had a quiz, and each question had 4 possible answers, so we made it easier this year. Also, we were concerned about cheating last year, so we put it online this time. So hopefully you all have gone ahead and done the quiz. And question 1 was sort of a sample question, and that was about a quote. And this movie couple said, "That's the best kiss of my life," and then he corrected her and said, "No, that's the best kiss of your life so far." 32% of y'all picked Linda and Doug Varnado as the folks who said that. Ann Buchanan, what did you choose on that question? So Ann cheated a little bit. She called Doug and Linda. The correct answer is it was the Simpsons who said that. In the Simpsons movie about 20 years ago, Marge said, "That's the best kiss of my life," and Homer responded, "No, that's the best kiss of your life so far." And the reason that I bring that up is because I want to use those words a couple more times during today, the words "so far." Question number 2, somebody said this: "Democracy is the worst form of government except all those other forms that have been tried from time to time." Well, 13% of y'all said that Winston Payson said that, and 87 said that Winston Churchill did. Well, the 13% that said that, Winston Payson's a dog. He's a French bulldog who won the National Dog Show not too long ago. But the correct person that the quote came from was Winston Churchill and talking about democracy. And speaking of democracy, back in November we had an election in Hendersonville. 88% of the people who voted that day want term limits for the alderman and mayor of Hendersonville. We also had an election for aldermen. 6 aldermen were up for re-election. Of those 6 aldermen, 5 chose not to run. The 6 ran unopposed. Due to redistricting, 1 seat had no incumbent. The election produced 6 winners, 5 of them new to the board. Then 1 old alderman became the city judge and resigned. 1 new alderman became the county attorney and resigned. I and 11 aldermen appointed 1 new alderman at 1 meeting. He was the newest alderman for 2 weeks. At the next board meeting, I, the newest alderman, and 10 other aldermen appointed another alderman. He is the newest alderman and newer than the new alderman. He puts us back to 12, 6 returning and 6 new. But the more important picture is this one. In 37 years, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, I don't think we've ever had a picture taken like this. And what I ask of these aldermen, and what I ask our staff, is make Hendersonville look good. And I appreciate the aldermen that have come on board as well as the ones that have remained, because since November, I feel like they have done a very good job of making Hendersonville look good. They've allowed our meetings to be business meetings where we conduct city business. We've had disagreements, but not quarrels. We've had debates, but not personal attacks. I'm going to continue to do my best to hold civil meetings, and I also will continue my pledge to begin each meeting with a prayer and a pledge. Typically, those prayers will be provided by local pastors. And even if I disagree with something that is said, I will thank the alderman for speaking. But speaking of making Hendersonville look good, I want to notice these 3 students here. These are 3 Hendersonville High School students who were featured on CBS Evening News nationwide a couple months ago. They created a prosthetic hand for one of their classmates. Also, in talking about making Hendersonville look good, I want to talk about the clean team. This is an idea from our Public Works Director, Sarah Locke, and our COO, Jesse Eckenroth. Instead of having 20 to 25 Public Works staff responsible for keeping the city clean, we have a team of 3. That is their full-time responsibility now. We've just launched this. And you see some of their responsibilities there and what they're going to be doing. We think that will work much, much better, having these 3 people responsible for that. And also, speaking of making Hendersonville look good, I need to introduce Casey Lamar. She's right over here helping me out a little bit. She is our Public Information Officer, a position we created just a couple months ago. She's our Chief Marketer, our Media Strategist, our Social Media Coordinator, and our Website Builder. And since she's come on board, we have added more information to our website. In fact, now we have more information online than any time in the city's history so far. Let's look at question number 3. What do Memphis and Connecticut have in common? Well, 33% of you chose correctly, that there's a connection with some criminals to Hendersonville there, unfortunately. We had a murder in Hendersonville a couple months ago. the person suspected of that murder, our police officers tracked down to Memphis. We had some threats to our library and our library staff a couple weeks ago. Our police officers tracked that individual down to Connecticut. Both of them will face justice in Sumner County. And you see a comment about our police right here. That's just a citizen that wanted to make sure that praise was received where it needed to go. And at the same time, just yesterday, it came out that Hendersonville is among the top 5 cities of more than 400 cities in Tennessee. And that's because of our police officers. Public safety is going to continue to be a top priority for me. But as more people move here and more businesses open up here, our calls are going to increase. Not necessarily our crimes, but our calls to our police are going to increase. And as our calls go up, we need to buy more equipment. If we expect our police officers to keep us safe, we need to give them the equipment that they need. In one of those areas, we're going to buy 4 new police cars in just about a month or so. And then when July gets here, we're going to buy 10 more. And then in the next couple months after that, we're going to buy probably 10 to a dozen more because we've got to provide them the equipment that they need to replace some aging police cars. But we're also going to buy more LPR cameras. These are license plate recognition cameras. These are not the cameras that catch you for speeding through a red light. These are LPR cameras so that people who come into Hendersonville in a stolen car, their license plate is recognized and it notifies our police officers. If they are in a car that is owned by somebody who has a warrant, it notifies our police officers. We currently have 16 LPR cameras in Hendersonville, and I'm not going to tell you where they are. But I've asked the board if we can add to that next year. How can you get involved? How can you help? Go through the Citizens Police Academy and join the 100 Club of Sumner County. And having shared all this information with you, I can say, and I've said many, many times, if somebody comes to Hendersonville to commit a crime, our officers will catch you, you will be prosecuted, you will go to jail. Now, some of you answered this question about the connection between Hendersonville and Connecticut and Memphis, that Chief Bush grew up in those places. 67% of you said that. Assistant Chief Holt, will you help us answer this? Where did Chief Bush grow up?
Right here in Hendersonville, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief Holt. But the reason I bring that up and the reason I incorporate in this question is because I want to talk about our fire department. Our fire department is very good at preventing news. How many people here knew that we had a house fire in the Hunt Club 2 weeks ago? Very, very few of you. We had a house fire, and our firefighters were able to contain it to that house, just part of that house. Everybody got out, even the pets got out safely. It did not spread to another house. That's the kind of work that our firefighters do, is that they prevent news. As an example of how well they do, we have an ISO rating of 3. That means on a scale of 1 to 12, we are in the top 8% of all cities in Tennessee of how safe we are. And insurance companies use that to decide what your insurance premiums are going to be on your houses and your businesses. The lower the number, the safer you are. The less you're going to pay in premiums. And to continue that trend of safety in Hendersonville, we are opening a new fire hall that's close to Volunteer Park. That's fire hall number 7. We had estimated that cost to be $2.5 million 5 years ago. It's going to end up costing about $5 million, but it's worth it because people are going to be safer. We're also ordering a new fire engine that's going to cost us about $825,000, and I thank the board for approving that. So let's look at question number 4. The approximate cost to pave 1 mile of a 2-lane road is 37% is all that answered this correctly. The correct answer is about $250,000, and the reason that I bring that up, because I also want to show you this map, and it shows you the highlighted roads that we have paved in the past couple years. And the amount that I'm asking the board to spend on paving is going to go up. I'm asking next year, in the fiscal year 24, that we spend $3.9 million on paving so we can pave more roads. In the city's history, that will be the most annual spending on paving so far. Now, some of the people that are responsible for paving and maintaining our roads, they are also responsible for picking up limbs, and that became difficult when we had a big storm just a couple months ago. We had 60-mile-per-hour winds. What was even more difficult about that storm was it lasted for 6 hours. Typically, when we have a storm hit that involves us to go out and make sure that people are safe and to help people and to pick up limbs, it hits for 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes. But I had a conversation with a police officer 2 hours after this storm began, and he reminded me that we have firefighters and police officers and we have public works folks that are out there right now and are putting themselves at risk. Fortunately, everything that we lost was replaceable. and the limbs are mostly gone. And you see two quotes from two residents on how they feel that our staff did in picking up those limbs. But some of you on question number 4 thought that the cost to pave a road was going to go up 25% compared to last year. The reason I put that number in there, 25%, is this. We've been fortunate for the past 5 years. We've had a trash contract that has limited the amount that can be charged in addition to the previous year. Waste Pro has been picking up the trash for our residences for 4 years, and it's a 5-year contract. The most that they could increase the charge to the city of Hendersonville was 2.5%. Meanwhile, their labor costs have gone up, their gasoline costs have gone up, their machinery costs have gone up, and the most they could go up with us was 2.5%. Whether we go back to Waste Pro at the end of this 5-year contract or we choose somebody else, the cost to pick up trash is going to go up probably 25%. That's going to be a challenge. Let's look at question number 5. Alice Walker said, "Life is better than death, I believe, if only because it is blank and because it has fresh peaches in it." 83% of you answered correctly that life is less boring, is what she said. And speaking of boring stuff, this is where I come to the part of the speech of boring stuff that matters. And let's talk about financials now. It is my responsibility to make sure that the city is on stable financial ground. And as part of that, a couple years ago, working with Jesse and working with our board, we decided we need to hold back money so we could have some funds in place for public safety and for infrastructure. So if we hit that rainy day when taxes aren't coming in where they needed to, or when prices go up significantly, we have money where we need to spend it in public safety and infrastructure. At the same time, that's allowed 2 other benefits. Is we're able to self-insure some of our smaller assets. So we've cut the expense that we have in insurance significantly. And the second benefit is we are now receiving revenue from interest. Several $100,000 of revenue from interest. Unfortunately, we're going to need to use some of this reserve this year. But it's fortunate that we certainly have it. Now, some of you felt like the answer was the difference between life and death is that life enables debt. And I guess that's sort of true, but it wasn't part of the quote. But the reason I bring that up is because the city of Hendersonville has decreased our debt 15% in the past year. We maintain a AA+ rating, and I can say without a doubt we are in the best ever financial situation so far. Property tax, we brought in a little bit over $20 million, and you see local sales tax for the past couple years. But what's important to me on local sales tax is not just the past couple years, but the past 5 years. We've increased our collections in local sales tax by 53% in 5 years. And there's no doubt of why that's happening. It's because of y'all here in this room. Because y'all are shopping local, and y'all are providing opportunities for people to shop local. It's not just the people in Hendersonville, but the people outside Hendersonville who are coming to spend their money here. And throughout all of this, the money coming in, the money going out, I have to thank our finance staff, especially Tamara Ingersoll. We have been without a finance director for about 4 months now. Tamara was hired to be the assistant finance director, and a couple weeks later, she became the acting finance director. And she's done an exceptional job. In fact, she has found us some efficiencies that we didn't know existed. We're able to do more with fewer people, and we appreciate everything Tamara has done there. And when we talk about boring stuff that matters, we also have to talk about technology. One of the biggest fears that I have is that I could come into the office one day and read an email that says, it's going to be from an IP address I don't recognize, it's going to be from some far-off place, and it's going to tell me, give us $250,000 and you can have your data back. We've seen this happen to cities across the country. It's happened to cities in Tennessee. Ransomware is a very real fear that I have. About a year ago, we merged our IT department and our HR department under Jason Gallo. And one of the first things I asked him was, reduce our risk. So he worked with his staff, worked with some outside vendors, and he educated us on what we do and what we don't do. We've all received those emails that look very real. They look like they're coming from somebody we know, they have a link that looks real, or they have an attachment that looks real. So Jason sent out a test after he educated all of us, and I clicked on the link. Fortunately, it was just a test. When he sent out the second test, I passed. Third test, I passed as well. When we talk about technology, I also want to mention we have a new streetlight committee. We have antiquated streetlights in Hendersonville. We have some that are 40, 50, even some that are 60 and 70 years old streetlights. So we put together a committee, and that's of people that understand streetlights. One of the people on this committee used to work for NES. We have people understand data, understand billing, and that understand the technology so that we can replace those streetlights to something that is better and to something that is going to be cheaper. And speaking of volunteers, let's move to question number 6. Martin Luther King Jr. said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for blank? 91% of you answered this correctly. 9 answered it incorrectly, and I'll come back to that in just a second. The correct answer is, what are you doing for others? And on that theme of volunteers, I want to mention our Arts Council in beautiful Hendersonville. Both of those organizations went defunct about 10 years ago, and we have revived them with the help of several aldermen that have really initiated this. Fortunately, with beautiful Hendersonville, Kathy Pascal, who was the chairman of beautiful Hendersonville 10 years ago, she has continued to be chairman. Just a month ago, Kathy was able to bring together 230 volunteers to clean up some litter in Hendersonville. But when we also talk about volunteers, I need to remind you of Sam Walton. Sam Walton came to Hendersonville in the 1960s to work for Nautiline Boat Company. He was off volunteer drive. He retired from Nautiline, and then he was offered the position to be the first city manager of Hendersonville in 1969. It was not part of his job, and nobody expected it of him. Nobody asked him to do it, but he started going out and talking to businesses in Hendersonville. And Sam created the Chamber of Commerce. Sam Walton created this. So in honor of Sam, a couple years ago, we started the Sam Walton Community Volunteer Service Award. First recipients were Taylor Rowe and Mauricio Sanchez, and then 2 years ago it was Danielle Slack. Last year it was Don Goodwin. But let me come back to those answers. Some of you said that Martin Luther King asked, "What's for lunch?" The reason I bring that up is because Homebound Meals is celebrating 42 years of providing lunches in Hendersonville. For almost half that time, Bill Walker, who's with us today, has been involved in Homebound Meals. Bill retired from the state of Tennessee, and he's been an umpire in our parks for 35 years. He's been a volunteer for the Hendersonville High School Band of Gold for 20 years. His children have long graduated from Hendersonville High School. Bill has been preparing lunches and has been delivering lunches. I never mentioned Bill in the previous years because I thought he was an employee. For the past several years, Bill has been the chairman of the board of directors of Homebound Meals, and he's annually given 800 hours per year. Bill, for your volunteer effort, you are the 2023 Sam Walton Volunteer Service Award recipient. Let me give you an award. Let's talk about our codes department. You see some figures up here about our permits for the past couple years in codes. When I look at those figures, and I get these figures monthly, I automatically think some of these are residential, some of these are non-residential. And in the residential area, in new homes, last year the city provided 384 permits for new homes. That's not as important number of what the next number is. The way that we provide services to the people that live in those homes and all the homes in Tennessee, all the homes in Hendersonville, is mostly through property tax and sales tax. So I look at what is the property tax that's being generated. We have approximately a $61 million budget, and we have approximately 61,000 people here, so the math is real easy. The city of Hendersonville spends about $1,000 per person who lives here. So the more we bring in property tax, the closer we are to providing the services they expect. These 384 homes on average generated $887 in property tax. That is a record for the city so far. But why are people moving to Hendersonville? Well, the first reason we've all heard about, people move to Tennessee because of the lower tax burden. And the second reason we're very familiar about, it's schools. And that's the reason that they're coming to Hendersonville. What happens is, when we have good schools, people want to live in those zones. So the demand for Hendersonville is high. When the demand is high, then the property values are high. When the property values go up, the property tax collections go up. When the property tax collections go up, the amount of services that we can provide are increased. So it's very simple. When we have good schools, the city can provide better services. And that's the reason a couple years ago I got some folks together, myself and some educators. This is not a City of Hendersonville initiative. This is something getting some educators together and asking, how come in some parts of the city we don't see that property demand? And they talked to me about the summer slide. The summer slide is when elementary schools, students, especially first, second, third graders, when they come into summer and their reading skills slide. So we started the SMORE program. That's the summer month of reading experiences, because we wanted to address those students that were struggling when they were first, second, third grade, and then they hit summer and they come back to school in worse shape than when they left. Fortunately, working with these educators, when we started this program, we have seen something different. What we do is we provide a school setting as well as a fun setting in the afternoon to 30, 40, 50 students. Overall, we've already been able to work with about 140, 150 students. And doing that at the Community Church of Hendersonville and working with Linda Varnado and Doug Varnado and their staff, we have seen that half of those students that have come through the program, they have maintained their level of reading. They've gone back in August where they were in May. And the other half, they've improved. So teachers that see them in August are seeing kids that are reading better than they read in May. If you want to help this program, you've heard me talk about the Hendersonville Specialty License Plate. That's a way you can help. That's $35 a year, and you can spread the word about Hendersonville, and you can also help with the SMORE program, because we need to make this available to more children. We pay for the teachers, we pay for the curriculum, we pay for the materials. A lot of you here are donors, a lot of you have provided meals, but we want to continue to make it free for these students. And if you want more information about the program, you can look at smorereadingcamp.com. But like I said, when I look at those permits for codes, I also look at the non-residential permits. You see a table right here, what's happened with our non-residential permits. This is business investment in Hendersonville, and it's going to be higher next year. The reason that's important, the reason that business investment in Hendersonville is important is because it's jobs and it's taxes. Let's go on to question number 7. Simone Biles said, at the end of the day, if I can say blank, it was a good day. Most of you answered this one correctly. 81% answered that what she said is, if at the end of the day I can say I had fun, it was a good day. Simone Biles is a 7-time Olympic gold medalist in gymnastics. And speaking of fun, let's move on from the boring stuff and some more fun things. Hallmark Hyundai is expanding right now. And in the midst of this expansion, they have moved from selling 40 vehicles a month to more than 200 vehicles a month. They are now the #1 selling Hyundai dealership in Tennessee. And that's because Natalie and Davey Downs have immersed themselves in Hendersonville. We also have another dealership coming on West Main Street, and Hendersonville Medical Center is expanding. They're going to spend $80 million on a renovation, and they're going to add to their employees. Currently, they have 680 employees. They are the largest employer in Hendersonville. You also see some of the new businesses that come to Hendersonville, or some of those that have expanded just in the past year. But speaking of fun and speaking of businesses, let's talk about Costco. We knew about Costco about a year ago. Very quickly, they overcame the hurdles and the permits and the applications that they needed with the city. The problems they ran into were state permits and federal permits. Jay Ritterbeck started with the city of Hendersonville as our economic and community development planner, and I started sitting down with Jay weekly back in December, and also sitting down with Greg Story of our codes department, with Sarah Locke of our public works department, with Jesse Eckenroth, and a couple other staff members, because I wanted to see what is it that we can do to help Costco get here. Again, they had satisfied everything we needed, but was there something we could do to help them with the permits they needed from the state and federal government? And the reason that was important is because we think that Costco's impact on the city of Hendersonville is going to be an improvement of $2 million per year. So every month they're not here, we're missing out on $180,000. How we wanted them here sooner instead of later. So every week, Jay talked to Costco. We sat down as a group in my office and figured out what can we do to help them. You see that they're moving dirt now. At their site, they started moving dirt about 2 weeks ago, and they anticipate being open October, maybe November, but certainly before the Christmas season. And like I said, the reason that's important, it's about $180,000 per year, which allows us to provide better services from the city of Hendersonville. In all, in 2022, when it comes to businesses opening, I attended 30 ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings, and in 2023, I've attended 18 so far. Now, as part of those businesses coming here, they very often have to go through our planning process. And I do not make any excuses, I do not make any apologies for the expectations that Keith Free and his staff in the city of Hendersonville have in the planning department. We have high expectations to build in Hendersonville. And as part of that, we embarked on the Westlake Plan. Now, the Westlake Plan is just a guide. The city of Hendersonville is not going out and buying any property. We are not going out and rezoning any property or building any roads. We're not condemning any property. The Westlake Plan is just a guide. It replaces the town center plan from 20 years ago. The town center plan didn't succeed. It didn't inspire reinvestment. It didn't inspire re-emphasis on the area along West Main Street. The Westlake Plan focuses on the area from Sanders Ferry Road to the Davidson County line, and it also encourages the city to spend more money over there. We're going to spend $135,000 in LED lighting in the Westlake area. We're going to spend $1 million on ADA improvements. Most of that is going to be new sidewalks. But in addition to that, we're going to continue working with Original Hendersonville. That's a 501c3 that is led by Greg Yandel of Ace Hardware, and he has several participants from other businesses along West Main. And I'm going to ask the board to do two new things. I'm going to ask the board to provide funding so we can partner with businesses that want to create a better looking sign out front and partner with businesses that want to create a better looking facade out front. And I feel confident that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen is going to agree with that. And the next year, we're going to spend the most money and the most attention on West Main Street in the city's history so far. But if we're going to talk about fun things, we have to mention our Parks Department, our award-winning Parks Department under Andy Gilley. We have more participants than ever. From inside Hendersonville, more participants than ever from outside Hendersonville. What that means to us is that's more sales tax, that's more lodging tax. But it also means that we need to add to our facilities. We're going to add pickleball. I appreciate Julie White and the Senior Center and that they understand the need to have pickleball there. We are in the design process right now. We anticipate having at least 4, maybe 6, maybe 8 courts. But what that location allows us to do is to expand very quickly. Now, we have seen that we are a recreation destination, and possibly we will be a recreation destination with pickleball. We are certainly a recreation destination when it comes to all our facilities. And through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the city of Hendersonville was top of the list for anybody that wanted an event in Middle Tennessee. But we're hitting a facilities gap. We have people very often that ask for some of these items, and we don't have it. We have some wonderful facilities in some areas, but we've fallen behind in some others. We don't have those right there. So some of those organizations and some of those events, they're going somewhere else. But to make up that facilities gap, millions and millions of dollars. Or we're going to continue to fall behind some other cities. Let's look at question number 8. Which was proposed first, aligning Walton Ferry and Old Shackle Island roads or a railroad between Louisville and Nashville? I think some of y'all had some fun with this. The correct answer is the railroad between Louisville and Nashville. It opened in 1859, went right through Hendersonville. The incorrect answer, aligning Walton Ferry and Old Shackle Island Road, sort of expresses some of your frustration, some of mine as well. The city contributes a little bit toward that, but it is a state project. It's a state-managed project. That is bringing Walton Ferry Road and Old Shackle Island Road into one intersection at Gallatin Road. A year ago, I think I told you that the state planned to go out for bids for construction of that in December of 2022. I can tell you right now, the state plans to go out for bids for construction of that in December of 2023. Also a state project is Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. Vietnam Veterans Boulevard is going to be widened to 3 lanes. We appreciate that this is a state project. This is $300 to $400 million project. What's going to happen there is that Vietnam Veterans Boulevard is going to have 3 lanes each way. Also, we're going to have a new intersection at Forest Retreat Road. And we're going to have longer lanes to merge onto Vietnam Veterans and longer lanes to come off of Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. Now, I've got to praise TDOT very much right here. They told us 3 years ago that the construction would likely begin in 2024. They have stayed on time that construction is likely to begin in 2024, and that's going to be a very helpful project for us. Now, like I said, some of you thought that, correctly, the railroad was a project that's been around longer. So the L&N Railroad was eventually taken over by CSX, and that brings us to the tunnel at Exit 8. We've completed most of the design on that, which is very expensive. We're in the process of acquiring property, which is also very expensive. And we're getting close to the construction. In December, we found out that the construction is probably going to be $29 million. To fund that just by the city would require us to more than double our property tax rate, and I'm not willing to do that. I've told you in the past that we sought federal grants, and we've quit doing that because the federal grants that used to have the main criteria as public safety, now the main criteria is about demographics. So we're not pursuing federal grants anymore. We're still looking for some federal money. I appreciate very much Senator Hagerty's office and Senator Blackburn's office and Congressman Rose's office. Appreciate very much our state delegation with Johnny Goodwin and, I'm sorry, with all of our state representatives with the state, as well as with the county, as well as with TDOT. We appreciate what they've done. We're going to continue to pursue money there because right now we have zero money provided from outside the city. Right now it's a total state project. Fortunately, we have commitments from some of the outside agencies for about $6 million so far, and we anticipate that that's going to go up. You've also seen some of the work on the synchronization project. You've seen some of the construction going on at our intersections, especially on Gallatin Road and New Shackle Island Road. That's phase one. We anticipate that phase one will be finished by the end of the year, but very soon phase two will begin, and that is tying that infrastructure together so that in the future, all the traffic signals in Hendersonville will be coordinated by one person in City Hall at a central location. You're going to see some of those signals working better early 2024, and most of them working better and working in sync by this time next year. You've also probably seen Sanders Ferry Greenway. If you've been close to Sanders Ferry Road or you've been along Gallatin Road, you've seen the work that's been done right there. We are close to getting to the last portion of that, and really what the last portion of that is 3 boardwalks that will go across the water. The deadline for that is October 5th, and we anticipate that that will be finished actually on time as well and on budget. Now let's look at question number 9. Somebody said this: if you're good to your staff when things are going well, they'll rally when times go bad. 35% of you said that it was Ken Lay. It was not Ken Lay. Ken Lay was the chairman and CEO of Enron. Things did go bad for him. He was convicted of 10 counts of conspiracy, fraud, and making false statements. 65% of you got this one correct. It was Mary Kay Ash. Mary Kay was the founder of Mary Kay Cosmetics, and at her death, she had a fortune of $98 million. She had a company worth more than $1.2 billion in sales annually, and she had 800,000 people as part of her sales force. She said, if you're good to your staff when things are going well, they'll rally when times go bad. And the reason I talk about staff is something I hit on a few minutes ago. We're without a finance director. We still have positions to fill in our police department. We need another engineer in the city. We have several staff positions to fill. And just like y'all have seen what's going on in the labor market right now, and it's hard. And one of the first steps of making sure that we can get to full staff is keeping the ones we have. So last year, I proposed and the board agreed that we would give a 6% cost of living allowance to all of our employees. Across the board, everybody 6%, and most of those then got an additional 2.5% because they were doing a good job. We're going to do that again this year. I've asked the board again for 6% across the board, as well as the opportunity for all of them to qualify for additional 2.5%. But that's probably still not enough. We are in the middle of a compensation study right now that is likely going to show us that in some positions we are not competitive. In some police officer positions, we are not competitive. And we've got to change that. What's important to me is not just that we hire good staff, but that we hire great people. Because in some cases, we ask our staff to put their lives on the line. I want to introduce you to somebody. Last summer, Officer Cole Farrell pulled over a gentleman in a van. It's close to Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. After they stopped, the gentleman in the van took off. Officer Farrell pursued. The two of them drove onto Vietnam Veterans Boulevard at high rates of speed onto I-65 and then toward Old Hickory Boulevard. the individual in the van, while he was driving, pulled out a shotgun and shot at Officer Farrell. And he hit Officer Farrell. And Officer Farrell continued to pursue. As mayor, when I get that phone call, I pray for the best, but I prepare for the worst. Fortunately, Officer Farrell and his wife, Maddie, are here today. Could you stand up for us, please? Thank you so much. So I've introduced you to several people today. I appreciate State Representative Johnny Garrett and our state representatives that are here, and I appreciate the work of Congressman Rose in helping us in so many of these projects. I've also given you lots of data about the city. And I've talked about our accomplishments as well as a couple challenges. But I can say in the city's history, it's been our best year so far. But as we move forward, I have two calls to action, and they're the same calls of action that I give you every year. And the first one is shop local. Spend money in the businesses that we have here. And I ask everybody to do that because I know a lot of y'all are business owners. What helps is the sales tax that comes to us, because the sales tax keeps you safe. It helps us with parks, it helps us with paving. So please shop local. And the other thing I asked of you is that you support our schools. We all say we support our schools, but what do you do when the 10-year-old from up the street knocks on your door selling candy bars? I need you to answer the door and buy the candy bar. I need you to volunteer at the schools. I need you to buy us more license plate. I need you to participate in the functions that are at those schools. I need you to support our schools. If you say you support our schools, support our schools. And I also need you to remember that we live in the best city, in the best state, in the best country in the world. I'm very grateful that you allow me to be its mayor. Thank you all.
Mayor Jamie Clary.